John Parker, remind me, you had to be one of those guys that Nick Saban selected to go to SEC Media Days. Am I right?
Thank goodness I did not have to go. My year, it was Antoine Caldwell and Rashad Johnson. So I got to dodge the bullet and sit that one out.
Yeah, and I can imagine where you think about media, because at times we are a little rough, especially because we're trying to ask a million questions. And could you imagine the number of questions that Nick Saban and the three players representing Alabama are going to get about quarterbacks? I mean, it's going to be like nonstop. And since for the minute they walk in Atlanta, because they're moving it from Hoover to Atlanta, they don't come back to Hoover next year, they're going to ask quarterback, Jalen Hurts, Tua Tagovailoa. They're going to hear it for 7 hours consecutive, nonstop.
Yeah, without question. And it's honestly, it's probably harder on the players than it is for Coach Saban to answer those questions, because he has come out and you know, the way he handles the media is pretty obvious, and they've dealt with him, so he's going to squash any of those conversations pretty quickly. And when the reporters try to press, well, he can handle that, better than anybody. It's going to be tough for the players to try to, they got two friends right there that are vying for the position, and nobody knows who it's going to be, and nobody knows what's going to happen. So it's a tough position for the players to be in, because you're trying to give good answers, but at the same time you're trying to protect your team, with the guys in the locker room. So it's a delicate line you have to walk as a player, but I think the school does a really good job of helping you out, get ready for these situations. So when I was there as Jeff Purinton, now it's Josh Maxson, who really can get in there and help you get a game plan for these questions, because it is important. I mean, this is a huge part of the process of being a college football player. It's talking to the media and being able to handle yourself as a professional, especially representing the university. So you try to do your best job of, like I said, give good answers to the reporters, but at the same time protect the program.
So I'm just curious, and now we can get the real insight. Did they run through like mock interviews? I mean, because Jeff is such a highly prepared, and so is Josh. Did they run through mock interviews? I mean, did they try to prepare you with what questions they thought that would be asked of you? Because, I mean, you're the quarterback at the University of Alabama. You got to go in and face the media every single Monday for, right after Nick Saban talks. Did they kind of walk through some of those and kind of give you heads up when some of those questions were going to be asked?
We wouldn't do necessarily mock interviews, but we would have ideas of what was going to be asked. And it was both of us saying, okay, Jeff and Josh saying, here's what to be on the lookout, or here's how we're thinking about this question. And I think the word you said is perfect, is prepared, because it is an element of the, being a starter and being a successful program like Alabama. It's the local media, it's the national media, it's everybody in between of, just wanting, in the media, we get jobs too of providing stories and talking, and the players understand that. And I think our football team does a really good job of being accessible and open. I was on some teams that wasn't as open, but I think they do a really good job of preparing the players, because you see the teams that don't prepare their players, and it can get uncomfortable at times. And I think our football staff does a great job of putting the right guys up there on the podium, taking the right guys to the media days. And, during the off season, we'd have times where we'd have not a speech coach, but, an interview expert come in of how to handle stuff, and showing a lot of examples of how really not to handle some questions. Because it is still, college football. When it gets to the pros, it's a little bit different. Everybody's kind of their own brand, and some people have some different agendas of building a brand. But in college, the brand is the university, and that's what we're trying to look after at all times.
And you would probably never notice this, but I'm gonna tell you as a media guy, because I have a chance to watch other schools come rolling in, and whether it's Alabama traveling to a away game, Alabama coming in front of the camera, Alabama going to SEC Media Days, I'm not sure if that's just the standard that you guys try to uphold, but Alabama players always look with class. When you talk about representing, they're only going to send players in that room if they trust, for one. I mean, let's get that out of the way. But they're also going to send players in there. I can count very few times that they didn't come in with a collar. And what does that really matter? No, I mean, I guess it really doesn't. But it's good that when you see Alabama, when they dress, and I'm not sure if that was a requirement of Nick Saban, but when you guys would go on the road, it was something about a standard that you guys had. It was suit, tie, and it looked Alabama. You traveled in. It was like it's a business appointment, right? I mean, it's what Nick Saban tells us.
100%, and that was the word that I was just thinking is it is a business trip. And I like, putting on the coat and tie because especially in college, the only time we ever wore coat and tie was to an away game or to a home game. When we're getting ready to go to the stadium or to the hotel, it's a business trip. And yeah, I think that's I don't even know. Coat and tie was required on the away games, but during the Monday morning press conferences, everybody's always in an Alabama football collar shirt. We're always looking the same, talking the same. I don't think it was ever really stressed, but just kind of the standard that we were trying to set in being the best at everything, right? So that's one of the things Coach Saban's always talked about is, hey, it's not just playing on Saturday, it's getting ready on a Tuesday and in June, or it's going and making sure you're going to all your classes. It's not a switch you can flip on just for Saturday. So if you're doing that all the time throughout the week, it's a lot easier to maintain that. It's a lifestyle that you're trained to do as a player, and it's really special. It really is, just from Josh and Jeff in the media department to the training staff, always dressing the same on the practice field. It's just kind of the way the program is, and I think it's one of those small things that just sets you apart.
We're talking to John Parker Wilson, and John, I want to ask you real quick about this redshirt rule. When you talk about redshirting, the possibility of now 4 additional games and you would still qualify for a red shirt. It's not like where you would have to get a medical red shirt. You get 4 games. You play in any 4 games, you still qualify for a red shirt. I'm curious, from a player perspective, do you like the rule? What did you think about it when it was announced last week?
I do. I mean, I think it's a great rule if it's used correctly. I mean, just think about a quarterback, or, for my instance, if you could go in there and get quality reps, no matter what time of the year or who the opponent is. You got 4 games to go out there and get better. And, with our couple of the cupcake games that we have, it makes it easier to go out there and get some reps. So I think you can use it to your advantage as a program, going out there and doing everything you can to continue to improve. And I think that's one of the things that Coach Saban does better than anybody is develop players. This is just an extra tool. Now, what I hate to see is players get out there for 4 games and realize they're not the starter and then try to transfer or whatever. So I think it's going to be used the right way, but I think it's a great, great tool for young players.
John Parker, going back to your days, I know it's only been a few years ago, but it seems like now we're just having more players transferred. I'm not talking about just Alabama. It seems like when you open up ESPN, you go to the college football page, it's like transfer after transfer after transfer. Why do you think that is? Is there a reason that you can maybe put your finger on the pulse of why we have so many players, not at Alabama, just across college football, that are not happy where they're at and they're just looking for another opportunity?
Yeah, I think it's just the culture of college football now. When I was in school and we were at Alabama, it wasn't ever even thought about of transferring. If you weren't playing, you just try to work a little bit harder and become the starter, right? Or try to get on the field any way you can. Now it's guys seem they're pretty quick to get up and leave. I don't know if I can blame them. I just know that from personally, I was going to try to do everything in my ability to work harder to try to get on the field. I think it's within the rules, so you can't get too mad at it. And, Coach Saban's talked pretty extensively about the free agency in college football. I hate it seeing going that way, but it's definitely the way they're moving right now. We've been on the benefit side of it one time when Jacob Coker transferred to Alabama and we won a national championship with him. So I think if it's good for anybody, it's good for Alabama, of us getting those guys that could transfer late. But it's definitely changing college football pretty rapidly because, just like you said, 10 years ago, 12 years ago, when I was there, it wasn't even talked about.
Yeah, and it just seems like when what you guys went through, like I don't think anybody could have even blamed you guys if somebody would have said, "Forget it, man. I've had enough. I'm leaving Tuscaloosa. I'm going to go to other opportunities." I don't think many people would have blamed you for what you guys went through here, the early part of your career. And then you look now, and it seems like the littlest thing will push these guys away. It's just like, boom, I'm out of here. I don't want to compete. I got my feelings hurt. I'm out. And I don't want to see that in college football. As Nick Saban has pointed out, I think free agency for the game of college football would be a bad move if that's where we get to.
Yeah, I agree. Plus it puts the coaches in a really bad situation of saying you can't transfer, or I'm not letting you transfer to that school. It's a very delicate situation right now, and I think over the next couple of years they'll make some rules to make it more black and white, because right now, can you transfer in the SEC? Should you be allowed to? It's kind of, an unwritten rule, but not really. It's just, I think it's putting the coaches in a tough situation. I don't know if it needs to be an SEC rule or NCAA, but it's getting a little out of hand, or a little, maybe not out of hand, but a little more excessive than it used to be. Maybe that's the way that college football, they're trying to let it go for the players to be more happy every day, but it's definitely moving that way.
John Parker, let's go outside of the SEC. Is there a coach out there that you like in college football that really grabs your attention, the way that they manage, the way that they operate? Is there somebody outside of the league that you look at and you go, I like their style, I like what they're doing, I like what they're building? Is there somebody outside of the league that you look as a head coach in a program that grabs your attention?
Yeah, I think for me it's pretty easy, and you don't have to go too far to our out-of-conference games, and it's got to be Dabo Swinney at Clemson. Just the way that he's built his program and been the success that he's had and being able to maintain it now for a few years. I think he's done things the right way. He's gotten good, quality guys in there, and it's a lot similar to what we're doing at Alabama. So I think he's the one that has done it very good and been successful now for many years. So outside of the SEC, I think he's one of the best. He's got to be, just with his track record since he's been the head coach there.
And you look at, he's still a youngster. I mean, he's only, 47, 48, something like that? And he's still got a lot of tread left on those tires, man. A lot of championships still left for Dabo Swinney.
Oh, there's no question. I mean, what he's been able to do there in such a short time is pretty impressive. Because when he got there, I don't even know if Clemson maybe won one national championship before he got there, correct?
Yeah, I think you're absolutely correct. I think,
and I think that might have been early '80s.
Yep,
and
right.
Now they went from winning one national championship to playing in every playoff game, and it being not just an SEC championship of, hey, we want to win the ACC championship, but hey, we expect to play, compete, and win the national championship. So it didn't take them long to turn that around. And yeah, he's a young guy, and we'll see what happens with Clemson moving forward, but he's definitely got the wheels running in the right direction.
Hey, John Parker, let me ask you one quick thing. We were talking about predictions, bold predictions for the 2018 season. Let me ask you from a player perspective, when would you begin to decide on your goals? Now, a lot of those goals were not public. You didn't talk about them, but when would you kind of make your decision on what you wanted to do for the upcoming season? So maybe some goals as a player that you guys would try to decide on, just you personally.
Yeah, that's a good question. I think they're always being developed and cultivated and looked at every day. Personal goals is one thing, and then we have team goals, and the team's been pretty outspoken about their leadership council and everything they have going on, which I love. That was one of the things that Coach Saban brought in was, hey, we're going to have 15, 20, 25 guys on a leadership council that Coach Saban doesn't make the goals, but we do as a player. And I think the individual goals really go off those group team goals. I mean, it's tough for a football player to say, hey, I want to go out there and run for 1,200 yards, or I want to make 150 tackles, or these things. I think those are byproducts of the goals that you have of, hey, I want to gain 10 pounds in the weight room. I want to get 20 pounds on my bench. Those are the things that you could control every day. And, I feel like I sound like Coach Saban right now talking, but those are how we set goals. And, it might be, hey, I want to win the Heisman, or I want to be first team all SEC. But those are really the byproducts of the daily goals that you have, the daily and weekly goals of going in the weight room, or, hey, I want to increase my 40 time by 0.2 of a second. Okay, well, how do I do that? What does that look like? I've got to, work on that every day. those are the kind of goals that we set to look for, throughout the week and throughout the year.
John Parker, is it true that you guys are coached not to look at the scoreboard?
Definitely. I mean, I think that was one of the first things.
How impossible is that, though?
It is, in that, not looking at the scoreboard, obviously you're aware of the situation of the game. Not looking at the scoreboard is the reason that Coach Saban goes berserk, the end of the fourth quarter when we're playing whoever. Name a cupcake that we played last year, Mercer or somewhere like that. That's not looking at the scoreboard. It's just playing to a standard, and it doesn't matter if it's practice or if it's a game. You got to go out there and do your job. And that kind of goes back to the mindset that we looked through the whole year of, doesn't matter if you're up or you're down or you're tied, you got to go out there and play to your standard. And that's something you set all year long. And yeah, we know the score, we know the situation of the game, but what that's speaking on is, hey, if you're a defensive lineman and it's, the first couple of weeks when it's so hot and we're up by 21 points, well, you're going to chase the running back 80 yards down the field, even if we're up by 4 touchdowns. That's the kind of stuff that he's talking about of, doesn't matter what the situation is, just go out there and give 100% every play.
Hey, John Parker, let me throw it back to you and talk about the great dealership, Scott Peoples, Tuscaloosa, Toyota, and tuscaloosa.youtube.com.
Yep, right down there on Skyland Boulevard. We've talked about them every week. Tuscaloosa Toyota, tuscaloosa.youtube.com. One price, one place where you can go in there. Don't have to worry about haggling or what price you're going to get or how much is the dealer fees and all that. It's listed right there in front of you. They've got a great sales staff to assist you in looking at the different options and packages and vehicles they have. But we talk about culture. The culture that they have around there is second to none. I've been in there, spent a ton of time there with the sales staff, with the service department. I hate getting my car serviced, but going in there and having the big leather couches and the TVs and the snack bar and everything makes it so enjoyable. So check them out at Tuscaloosa Toyota. Go drop in, tell them me and Ryan sent you, and you'll walk out there with a good deal and feeling good about the purchase you just made.
Now you drive the 4Runner, correct? Isn't that what you told me?
Oh yeah, I've been driving a 4Runner, for a while now. I'm on my third 4Runner, and I don't know if I ever drive another car. It's amazing. I really do love them.
They're incredible. I mean, I know people say, "What, Ryan, you're doing a commercial?" No. It's easy to endorse a place like Tuscaloosa Toyota. It's talking about the product, and I always remind people, if you go into the dealership, look to the right in the showroom, you'll see a RAV4 that's a 2011 RAV4 that has 680,000 miles on it. It's incredible when you talk about the quality of product that you're getting at Tuscaloosa Toyota, tuscaloosa.youtube.com. John Parker, I'll look forward to talking to you next week. Thank you, sir. I hope you
got it. Roll Tide, Ryan.